Let's now settle for the details. And President Akufo-Addo has been speaking, talking about the fact that his government has been able to stabilize the economy after 1 year in office. Now, he said this when he addressed Parliament on the State of the Nation address, and the fact that the president was talking about the fact that they've been able to reduce the public debt drastically. The following Business Desk report brings us some highlights of the issues the president spoke when he addressed Parliament a while ago.
President Akufo-Addo in his address also talked about how the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has contributed to this stability.
Ken Ofori-Atta, the Finance Minister, is proving to be a national asset. I know that when it comes to the economy, many of us have very low tolerance for what we consider as boring figures.
The president noted that there is a plan to drastically reduce unemployment in the country, with some banks already making some promises to support the program.
Solutions to their concerns in order to guarantee industrial peace. The Speaker, we're therefore able to say with confidence that we are creating the atmosphere needed for the creation of jobs, easily the most urgent problem that faces the government and the nation. We have put in place the structures to help small and medium-scale enterprises and budding entrepreneurs through the challenging startup years. The availability of cheaper credit is good news for business in general and means better prospects for jobs.
The president also talked about the 200 million cedis to deal with sanitation issues.
Government is working with various private sector authorities to tackle this major challenge with strategies that are intended to effect a change in our attitudes towards waste generation, as well as to improve dramatically our methods of waste management. This will be complemented by the strict enforcement of sanitation rules and regulations. Urgent attention will begin to clearing of rubbish all around the country. Apart from the systematic efforts being made to resolve the legacy of inherited debts in the sector, government will spend this year an amount, exceptionally, of 200 million cedis to address the vexed issue of sanitation. I'm confident that by the time I come back next year, God willing, an appreciable improvement would have been made in the sanitation situation in the country.
There was also some assurance to prudently manage the country's resources.
So those were some highlights shared with you in those reports about what the president has been talking about. So what about those who have been watching this address, the economists, the analysts, and all those viewers out there? Let's get onto the line and speak to Courage Mate. He is an economist. Good afternoon, Courage, and thank you for joining us on our discussion on the State of the Nation address from our calling it SONA. And first, let me ask you, Courage, if you are on the line, what do you make of this address? Courage, if you can hear me, I'm just trying to find out from you, what's your view, or what do you make of this address by the president, especially when it comes to the economy? So, Courage, if you can hear me, I want to find out from you, what do you make of this address by the president, especially in the area of what he said about the economy?
Well, I think he broadly covered the economy as a snapshot of where we are today. You know, he made mention of the key economic indicators like inflation and exchange rate behavior, which affects price stability. He mentioned the fiscal position and how it has evolved over the last 12 months. He mentioned the debt development and how they have managed it to arrive at where they are today. And so when you look at the broad macro numbers that any ordinary analyst will pick up and want to assess the health of an economy, I just touched on them broadly speaking, and for me, it's satisfactory in that regard.
He spoke about the public debt and the fact that it has seen some marginal reduction, but 139 billion Ghana cedis Whichever way you want to look at it, that's quite high.
Yeah, it's quite high, and of course, you want to roll the hand of time that we came from somewhere. And he mentioned it again in his address that at a point, the rate of debt accumulation was at a pace of 36% per annum. Now, in 2017, that rate has slowed down to 13.6%. So what it means is that if the rate of debt accumulation had not slowed down to 13.6%, it could have been worse. And sometimes it is also good to look or do the analysis on the basis of what could have been, if not for policy A or policy B. So again, at 139 billion cedis measured against an economy that is expected to expand, then you can only hope that the ability to refinance this debt would also improve over time as the rate of debt accumulation continues to slow down.
Find out from you, do you believe that the president gave a true assessment of the economy as we speak right now? Because people were still asking for more clarity on some programs as well as the numbers.
Well, for me, what I would say is that the State of the Nation address could not have captured each and every expectation, especially with reference to specifics. Now, again, I think that, and also there's a lot of tendency to focus on the macro level analysis. And this is where there appears to be some disappointment because everybody is looking at the micro or individual level and assess the economy in that respect. And for me, if I do that analysis, then I would want to say that it only goes to show that there is a lot of work still to be done. Because while the government gave the true picture of the macro aggregate level, I believe that there is still some shortfall as far as the picture at the micro level is concerned.
Courage Mate is an economist with Data Bank Financials, and I get the fact that even though at the bigger level or at the macro level things are improving, what about it also getting down to those small people down there in terms of how the growth in the economy impacts that woman on the street of Accra? We are still talking about the State of the Nation address, and we go into Parliament now live to speak to my colleague Ebenezer Sabote, who's been covering this for us. And Ebenezer, if you're there and if you can hear me, what has been the response so far from the members of Parliament, especially when it comes to the economy?
Yeah, I can hear you, right? Yeah, I mean, loud and clear. Some members of the minority thinks the president, has not been able to give us the true state of the economy or tell us the true state of the nation. The majority also are tapping themselves that they've been able to do well. They've stabilized, power so far. Industry is having the power, even when two major, plants of the country have been shut down, we still have power, industry is having power. And then also for the fact that the government has been able to clear majority of the debt the National Health Insurance Scheme is owed to some private sector, companies or businesses. So as usual, the majority are okay, they are satisfied with the State of the Nation address so far, whereas the minority are not satisfied. I engage some minority members who think the president has not been fair with the people of Ghana, especially with the special, petroleum levy. They think that the president should have made mention of it because just yesterday we had some civil society organizations and some Ghanaians went on demonstration against this special tax. And as the father of the nation, he should have addressed it, but up to now, there hasn't been any mention of it. But some members of the majority also think that when it comes to the energy sector, the Ministry of Energy and the Economic Management team is having a meeting or a kind of consultation with some power producers or and industries so that the cost of power, which has been a major challenge for industries, would be reduced. So as I speak with you, yes, the majority are okay. They are satisfied with the State of the Nation's address so far, whereas the minority are not too okay with the State of the Nation's address from the president. George.
So just like what they always say, the majority will have their way, the minority would have their say. But one thing the president spoke about was giving credit to the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, for the stability that we are currently seeing. Have you been able to get him on that? What does he make of this praise? And is it more of a challenge on him to deliver and sustain the stability the president has been speaking about?
We couldn't get the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to speak on some of those issues, but some members of the economic management team, or so to speak, the finance committee who we've engaged so far, thinks it is about time the finance minister takes the directive from the president directly, because some of these initiatives, you don't necessarily have to, seek a law or get that power or a written document before you can start. So they are hopeful that since the finance minister has been in constant touch with the president, it is about time to take some of these instructions from him so that he acts directly on some of these initiatives, George.
Well, sir, thank you so much for that update from Parliament with respect to the reactions to the President's State of the Nation address. And you had my colleague there, Ebenezer Sabote, giving us an update on what parliamentarians, what the majority and the minority makes of this statement that the president delivered a while ago. But we're still staying on this critical address by the president. And he's announced that it's a flagship policy that is the one district to one factory, as well as the program that is aimed at irrigating or actually helping transform irrigation in the agri sector, that is the one village, one dam, will take off this year. According to the president, all the necessary measures have been instituted to make the policy successful.
This year, the One Village, One Dam project starts full operation. It is a simple, low-tech project, but these dams will make a big difference to all our lives and the livelihoods of our farmers. Already, many of the little dams that had been abandoned have been rehabilitated and brought back into use. A deliberate and specific intervention to help farmers is paying off. Our farmers can see that the government is putting resources to back up the usual words. The 50% subsidies on fertilizer and the increase in the provision of extension services are making a great difference to the performance of Ghanaian agriculture. Under the Planting for Food and Jobs scheme, we're witnessing a fresh interest in farming. The success of the first year has encouraged us to increase the scope of the program, and this year, some 500,000 farmers will be signed up from the figure of 200,000 last year. That champion of Ghanaian farmers, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Efriye Akuto, is doing a yeoman's job.
And so that was the president talking about the One Village, One Dam. One interesting thing that you saw in his presentation or heard him was about, he was trying to praise his ministers for some good work done. So a lot of things have been said, and sometimes they say pictures communicate the message better. Let's look at some of the graphics or what the president tried to communicate to viewers out there when it comes to security, the economy, and all those things in these infographics that I want you to have a look at them. And I'll be trying to show you when it comes to the fact that 1 million per constituency, one of the first working day, I signed the law into act by actually helping the development authorities actually move on. So 1 million per constituency, that one is also going to happen this year. Can we roll on to the next one in terms of what the president said and how the pictures are communicating it? So here we have the 1 million per constituency, and we expect, for example, the provision of water and toilets to feature prominently in the agenda for the development authorities. That is what the president is talking about, the fact that these monies will be sent to every constituency. So if you have a constituency, be prepared for this money, $1 million to your constituency. Let's still roll out some of the picture, the infographics, in terms of trying to better communicate the message the president said to you. He's talking about job creation, and we have put in place structures to help small, medium-scale entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs through the challenging startup years and the availability of cheap credit to good use for businesses. And we also had the president talking about the fact that EcoBank has agreed to take up some of these young entrepreneurs and startups that will go through the programs. And all these things were said in a State of the Nation address So let's see other infographics in terms of what the president was trying to communicate. There is job creation. Government has established the National Builders Corps to employ 100,000 young persons in 2018 alone, assist the public sector service delivery in health, education, agriculture, sanitation, revenue collection department of the Ghana Revenue Authority. And that's what the president also said in his address with respect to job creation. There's also one about local people will make the decision on whether or the greatest needs are the direct funds to those areas in terms of job creation at the local level. So these are some of the stuff the president has been communicating or has been talking about in terms of what he said and how the infographics communicate them better. No strike action, and he's talking about the fact that there's no strike action. I mean, the fact that he's saying that they have managed the economy so well that in terms of the labor front, we've been seeing any serious industrial action. So those are what some would say the infographics are communicating the message better to you in terms of how you see, let's talk about railways and all the rest. So those are how the infographics are trying to communicate the issues to you in terms of appreciating the issues and all the rest. But what about people on the ground, the ordinary people, in terms of how they saw this address or how they consume it? My colleague Charles Zaiti has been engaging some students at the University of Ghana Business School on their reaction to this address.
All right, so the president has delivered his second State of the Nation's address. Key issues have been discussed so far, matters related to the economy and its stability, but key on the agenda when it comes to graduate, unemployment in this country is the issue of the creation of jobs. Well, we're currently here at the foyer of the University of Ghana Business School to engage students currently here on this very State of the Nation's address presented by the president. One thing that is on their minds is whether or not the issue of job creation was mentioned. Of course, it was mentioned, but not extensively. We shall be getting their thoughts on that very one. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me here on Marketplace. I'm going to start off with you, Kelvin, right? First of all, what's your take on the address? When you listened, I mean, what do you think about it?
Okay, so I think it was good. It was usually expected from the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, since he came to office. Normally, we get this kind of speeches almost every year, but the question we ask ourselves is, does it actually materialize into what we want to see? So on the surface, I think it was a good speech. On the
surface, it was a good one. What about you, Anthony? You listened to the address. What do you make of it?
Well, it's equally good because he spoke on issues of sanitation, the economy, basic infrastructure and all that. I think all those things are very core to the development of the country, and he touched on it. He also spoke on the issues of the economy and all that. We are looking forward to see a very good work done, as he said himself, that by the next time he'll be delivering a similar address, he'll be saying a lot of things. So we are looking forward to them.
Okay, what about you? When you listen to the address by the president, what do you make of it?
As usual, the president always says the right things. Again, this speech...
He always says the right things.
Exactly. His speech was very terrific, and he does well with these kind of things. But people are labeling the government as an all-talk, no-action government, and we are hoping this year will be different. But if I'm to take the speech as it was, as it came, it was a very good speech.
All right, let's now delve into the issue of job creation, because as students, I believe that's one of the main agenda from government. Starting with you, Anthony, when the president made mention about the establishment of the National Builders Corps, which is going to be employing in excess of 100,000 young people, what do you make of it? What did you make of it? Did you feel confident that indeed the issue of unemployment is going to be tackled?
All right, I personally don't think that is enough to tackle the issue of unemployment, because looking at the free SHS initiative, given 5 to 6, 7 years, we'll have a large pool of graduates who will be unemployed.
And those were the views of students of the University of Ghana Business School sharing their perspective on the State of the Nation address. I know one thing that will be of interest to students is about the fact that EcoBank could absorb more than 1,000 people will be trained under this whole entrepreneurship program. All too soon, the time is up, the curtain has to come down. My name is George Jaffe. Enjoy your afternoon and step out for some lunch, because maybe you might meet me in town.